She had her lover drop me at a cheap motel after emptying our accounts. That is the sentence I keep hearing in my head, like a TV looping in another room. The kind of sentence that defines a before and after point in a person's life. Before Melissa Cole decided she was done with me, Ethan Cole, and after. When she and her beloved miracle worker, Dr. Brandon Hale, drove me to a place with a flickering neon sign promising weekly rates, clean bedding, HBO, and probably hepatitis as a free bonus. We drove in silence, mostly because what was there left to say? Melissa sat in the front passenger seat, her arms folded across the same blue blouse she wore at the Harborview General Hospital gala photos last month. I had stared at those photos, wondering if something was wrong, if her smiles looked a little too stiff, if Brandon stood a little too close. Turns out, my instincts were not only right, they were embarrassingly late. Brandon Hale, the plastic surgeon demigod, drove the SUV. Smooth-faced, Rolex watch winking in the light, the kind of jawline that makes magazines describe men as distinguished. I used to call him Ken Doll with a scalpel in my head, back when I still had the luxury of humor that did not taste like battery acid. Melissa finally said, "Enjoy your new life," as if she were awarding me a vacation package. She did not even look back at me. Her voice was bright and brittle, like champagne poured over broken glass. She handed me an envelope containing our printed bank statements, each of them an obituary for years of savings, now reduced to neat rows of zeros. She kept the accounts, the car, the condo. I got $83 in my checking account and a cheap motel. I did not say a word. Not, how could you, or why, or what did I do? I had gone through all that in my head for weeks already. I stepped out into the parking lot, gravel crunching under my shoes, and watched their tinted windows reflect the buzzing pink motel vacancy sign. They drove away without a goodbye. But Melissa did something I expected. She had Brandon pull over about 50 yards down the road, so she could stare into the rearview mirror and admire the wreckage of her former husband one last time. Probably she wanted closure, or to feel superior, or to smile at the poetic justice her rom-com version of life told her she deserved. But what she got instead was a black motorcade sliding silently into the motel parking lot, a pair of matching SUVs and a smaller sedan, windows tinted darker than the ones on Brandon's precious luxury car. Melissa's mouth, I am sure, went slack, eyes widening, hands going slack in her lap. I never saw her face at that moment, but I know her. I can see it. And then, as the rear SUV door opened and a man in a charcoal suit stepped out and smiled directly at me, I know she went ghost white. Because she thought she threw me away. Because she thought she knew my life, my contacts, my worth. Because she had no idea who still owed me favors. Not criminal favors, though it probably looked that way. No mafia dons or hitmen. Melissa saw expensive suits and black vehicles and instantly assumed the worst, because people like Melissa always assume everyone operates like they do when they want something, in the shadows, with secrets, and without consequences. She had no idea that a year ago I had saved a Fortune 500 corporation roughly $22 million. It is funny how someone can be married to you and still not know you at all. Inside the SUV, the air smelled like cedar and clean leather, not motel mold and road dust. The man who had stepped out, Tom Franklin, slid into the seat beside me. Director of Risk Assessment at Pilgrim Mutual Insurance, headquartered an hour from Harborview. Shaved silver hair, calm eyes. A man who had spoken at corporate conferences about ethics and liability while knowing exactly how to destroy anyone who threatened his bottom line. Tom adjusted his tie. "Rough night, Ethan." "Little bit," I said. "You should have told us sooner." "Thought I could fix it myself?" He studied me for a long moment. "You could, but you are not going to, are you?" It was not a question. I looked at the motel door behind us. Number 6, faded brass numbers. Probably had seen more infidelity than my marriage vows ever approached. Melissa probably thought she was creative, dropping me here, poetic justice, or some metaphor about the man she now believed I was. A nobody. She emptied everything, I said. Our savings, my retirement, all while she was sleeping with a doctor whose bedside manner probably tastes like breath mints and narcissism. "Want me to say I am sorry?" Tom asked. "No." "Good," he nodded, because I was not planning to. I laughed. A short, cracked sound. The first real laugh I had allowed myself in months, maybe years. "We will put you up somewhere better," he said. "I do not need charity." "It is not charity. You saved us a fortune last year with that early warning system you coded. You want something in return? You say it." Tom smiled, slow and thoughtful. "Depends how much you still care about the law." I did not answer, which was answer enough. Hours later, I sat in a quiet bar that smelled like old wood and lemon-scented polish. Tom sat across from me. Another man from the motorcade sat nearby, a presence instead of a participant. The kind of man whose job was to ensure other people did not become a problem. Tom took a sip of his drink. Explain it from the start. So I did. I told him about Harborview General Hospital, about Melissa's job running PR campaigns, about surgical miracles and philanthropic donors, while privately texting Brandon about hotel rooms and nights she said she was working late. I told him about the Instagram perfect galas and charity events, about the way Melissa had kissed my cheek while pulling away emotionally month by month, millimeter by millimeter. I told him about Brandon's perfect hair and white coat and the smug way Melissa said the words Dr. Hale with just enough emphasis that I could hear the vowels melting. I told him about all the little lies I had ignored, how I had blamed myself, how she had told me I was paranoid, how I believed her. I told him about the night I finally connected the cloud storage on our shared tablet and found a folder named Event Photos that was not event photos. The selfies, the messages, the video. I did not describe it out loud, but Tom read it in my voice. Something in me had broken, precisely and permanently, during that discovery. I told him about waiting, about playing dumb, about watching Melissa drain our accounts and pretend it was normal, about pretending that losing my dignity was something I could survive. Tom listened carefully, fingers steepled. Did she ever think you might fight back? He asked. No. Why would she? I have always been the quiet one. People underestimate quiet, Tom said. It is the biggest mistake they make. He took out a small notepad, the expensive kind that fits into a suit pocket. What do you want, Ethan? Say the words. I looked up at him, and for the first time since that night, I felt my heart rate slow, my breath settle, my vision sharpen like a camera lens coming into focus. I want them undone, I said. I want reputations destroyed. I want careers shattered. I want Melissa to learn what it feels like to lose everything she needs to breathe. And I want Brandon to know I was the one who did it to him. I want him afraid every time he sees a shadow move. Tom nodded, as if I had requested a new laptop or a better desk chair. That can be arranged. The motel owner was a man with a cigarette stuck permanently to his bottom lip, like it was glued there sometime around 1998. He handed me the room key while staring at my face as if trying to guess whether I was the type to scream at midnight or leave quietly at dawn. Check out at 11, he said. No exceptions. Good to know. I closed the door behind me, and the room smelled like bleach trying to fight the losing battle against old sweat. The carpet was a floral pattern faded into near abstraction. I sat on the mattress and let my hands rest on my knees. A cockroach darted into a crack in the wall. I stared at the crack, imagining my life sliding into it. But then I pictured Melissa slamming her laptop closed at the hospital when her phone buzzed, a twist of panic in her manicured hands. Brandon ruining his perfect reputation in a single headline. I pictured their future shrinking, just like mine had. My phone buzzed. Tom had texted an address where I could stay starting tomorrow. A furnished apartment, quiet, secure. I typed one word. Thanks. I stretched out on the bed and let my eyes close. For the first time, I was not imagining myself begging or crying or pleading the way Melissa probably pictured me. I imagined myself watching her world buckle. Tomorrow morning, I thought, I go back into Harborview, not as Melissa's husband, as the man she never bothered to understand. When I woke, the motel sunlight looked harsh and unfriendly, but I felt clear. I packed what little I had, which took maybe 4 minutes, and checked out. The motel owner nodded, as if he approved of my early departure. I half expected Melissa to be sitting in the parking lot like a villain in a drama, waiting to finish me off. She was not there, but I did not need her yet. Harborview sat like a rusted crown on the shoreline. Fishing boats, warehouses, peeling paint on brick buildings, a boardwalk that smelled like sea salt and regret. And somewhere inside that decaying necklace of streets stood Harborview General Hospital, the cathedral where Melissa built her image and Brandon built his ego. I walked through its sliding doors as if nothing was broken in me. But something was broken, just not in the way Melissa hoped. That is when I saw the first hospital employee lean toward another and whisper something that ended with a glance in my direction. Whispers are never as quiet as people think. Good. I needed gossip. I needed all of it. As I passed the reception desk, I heard a nurse say to another one, "That's Melissa's husband." A pause. No, I heard she left him for Hale. A shake of the head. I heard it was mutual, and he went psycho. A knowing look. I heard she caught him cheating first? Perfect. If there was one thing I could count on, it was that Harborview loved a scandal almost as much as it loved a flu outbreak. I kept walking. This time, they did not get to keep the narrative. I would be writing it. I stepped into the elevator. As the doors slid shut, I saw my reflection. Same brown hair, same tired eyes, same face Melissa decided was not enough. But there was something new, a reason, and it felt better than hope ever had. While you're here, hit the hype button, don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like, and tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? The elevator hummed as it rose, floor numbers blinking overhead. I leaned back against the cool metal wall and tried to pretend I did not feel my pulse beating in my teeth. Harborview General, with all its sterilized hallways and motivational posters about wellness, was the place where Melissa had reinvented herself, where she learned to talk in quotes that belonged on billboards, where she learned that image was not something you built, it was something you weaponized. And she had used it on me, hospital scent. The same smell that Melissa came home carrying every night, except she had stopped smelling like me a long time ago. I stepped out, moving with purpose but not hurry. People who look like they belong do not attract suspicion. I passed the surgical wing bulletin board, littered with announcements for conferences and workshops, glossy photos of Dr. Brandon Hale smiling beside various important people whose names had registered trademarks before they were even born. Brandon specialized in reconstructive and cosmetic procedures. He had a thriving private practice, but kept public duties at the hospital to maintain his savior of the people image. The community loved him. Social media adored him. Patients worshipped him. A man that clean should not have been sloppy enough to leave a trail, but he was. I reached the PR operations office. Melissa was not there yet, but her interns were. A trio of over-caffeinated young faces staring into monitors, probably editing a feel-good press release about some groundbreaking technique or successful fundraiser. Their voices were quiet, the kind of professional whisper that thinks it is confidential, but travels like wildfire in hallways like these. "Are we still going to the meeting with Dr. Hale at 9?" one asked. "I think so. Melissa said she might be late, though," another answered. "Something about a problem last night." I resisted the urge to laugh out loud. Problem was too small a word. Behind the intern sat Melissa's office, glass walls, blinds half drawn. For years I had brought her coffee there. For years I had sat on that little couch, typing on my laptop as I waited for us to drive home together, before everything turned into the kind of lie that shatters bone. I moved on, heading for the staff lounge. I needed information, gossip, cracks in the armor. I needed someone who liked to talk. Hospitals have these people. They are as essential to healthcare as saline and electricity. I found mine leaning against a vending machine. Blue scrubs, curly hair in a loose ponytail, ID badge reading Nicole J. R.N. She was laughing softly at something on her phone. She was the type to know who was sleeping with who was stealing supplies, who was faking overtime sheets. The kind of person who traveled between departments like a migratory bird of conversation. I approached with a nod. "Nicole." She blinked at me, eyes widening. "Ethan? Oh my God, I thought you moved, or died, or both." "Not yet," I said, keeping my tone dry. "Anything new around here?" She looked at me the way people look at a gun placed on a dining room table, fascinated, wary, waiting for someone else to touch it first. "Word is Melissa is going through some stuff," she said carefully. "Stuff," I repeated. "Yes, you could call it that." Nicole bit her lip, then checked over her shoulder before lowering her voice. "Is it true? About her and Dr. Hale?" There it was, the kindling. Now I needed only to decide how fast to light it. "Do you want the polite version?" I said, "or the one that has hotel receipts?" Her eyebrows shot up so fast I almost heard tendons snap. "You have receipts?" "I have everything." She exhaled, hands briefly covering her mouth in scandalized delight. Not cruel delight, just the kind reserved for drama that does not belong to you. She tugged me toward the end of the lounge where the coffee machine hissed and steamed. "So, what are you going to do?" she asked. "Just disappear like she wants?" "No," I said. "I am staying. And I'm saying nothing until the right moment." Wow, that is dark. I am done being light. Nicole stared at me differently now, not as Melissa's awkward husband, as something less predictable. She whispered, "When you decide to burn them, call me. I make excellent popcorn." I almost smiled. Almost. I left the hospital through the west exit that led to the multi-level parking garage. The wind knifed off the harbor and funneled between the concrete ramps. I needed to clear my head. My feet echoed loud in the dead gray morning. Then, up a level, I saw him. Brandon Hale, in his tailored navy coat, phone to his ear, pacing beside a white performance car so clean it looked illegal to touch. The man looked carved. Perfect posture, perfect expression, perfect life. Until he looked at me. His step faltered. Only for a second, but I saw it. He ended his call without saying goodbye. He pocketed his phone and straightened his shoulders. His eyes landed on me, scanning, calculating. "Ethan," he said, his voice like he was greeting a lab result. "You should not be here." "Neither should you," I said. "Shouldn't you be recovering in post-op after saving a millionaire's eyelids or something?" He frowned. "Look, I don't want this to be hostile. That would require effort on your part." He sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Whatever you think happened between Melissa and me, I want you to know it was complicated." "No," I said. "Complicated is a billing code. What you two did was simple." His jaw tensed. "She was unhappy." "Then she should have left," I said, before draining accounts and treating me like luggage. Brandon glanced around the garage, maybe looking for witnesses or an exit. I stepped closer, not threatening, just present. "Do you love her?" I asked. He hesitated. It was microscopic, but it was there. Then, with the conviction of a politician and the sincerity of a used car ad, he said, "Yes." I nodded slowly. "Then it is a shame what is going to happen to you." He narrowed his eyes. "Are you threatening me?" "Not yet." He took a single step in, lowering his voice. "You're in pain. I understand that. But Melissa deserves to move on. So do you. Let's not turn this into something bigger than it needs to be." "Too late," I almost said. Too late by miles. "You have no idea how big this is going to get," I said instead. His expression twitched. Barely. But a twitch can be an earthquake if you know where fault lines lie. Footsteps echoed behind us. A security guard turned the corner, nodding once. Brandon exhaled, relieved. I stepped back because timing matters, and this was not the moment. Not yet. "Take care of yourself, Ethan," he said, unlocking his car. I watched him drive away. "Not a chance," I murmured. I left the garage and walked down to the coffee stand on the corner outside the hospital. The cold bit into my face. The barista recognized me, but I could not tell if it was because I used to come here with Melissa or because gossip traveled faster than influenza in Harborview. I ordered a black coffee and sat by the window. I took out my phone and looked over the notes I started compiling last night. Passwords I knew Melissa reused, old emails, dates of business trips that were not business, hotel addresses, details, patterns. Human beings reveal more than they think, especially when they believe someone is already defeated. They would learn otherwise. My phone buzzed again. Tom. 11 a.m. Meeting. My office. We begin. I stared at the screen, took a sip of coffee, and felt heat flood through me that had nothing to do with temperature. I stepped outside, zipped my jacket, and headed downtown. Pilgrim Mutual Insurance headquarters was a tall glass building that did not belong in Harborview. Sleek, modern, with a lobby that smelled like expensive paper and ambition. I signed in, took the elevator up, and entered the risk assessment floor. Tom gestured me into his office. "Sit." I did. On the desk before him sat a closed folder. Thick, overstuffed. It looked like it might contain someone's life. "Before we go further," Tom said, "I need you to understand something. We do not break laws. We do not fabricate. We do not forge evidence." "Understood." "But we do reveal truths at precisely the right moment." "Good," I said. "There is more than enough truth." He tapped the folder. "This is intelligence on Dr. Brandon Hale, some publicly available, some less obvious." I opened it, expecting malpractice rumors, taxes, affairs, but the first page froze me. Brandon Hale had a wife. Not an ex-wife. A wife. I blinked. "Lana Hale?" "Yes. Lives 3 miles outside town. Upper Ridge neighborhood. Former marketing executive. Quiet separation." Melissa never said anything. She probably does not know. I leaned back, whistling low. Well, that explains things. Tom crossed his legs, watching my reaction. "You wanted devastation. This is laser-guided devastation if handled correctly." "You were expecting me to back out?" "No," he said. A man who sits silently in a motel parking lot waiting for a motorcade does not back out. Smart man. As I turned pages, I saw more. Investments, clinic partnerships, community sponsorships, a surgical technique trial that had some questionable consent documentation, nothing criminal yet, but reputational poison if administered in the right dose. I flipped another page and stopped. A name, an underage patient, a confidentiality settlement, a non-disclosure agreement so airtight it might have suffocated the air around it. No death, no injury requiring emergency intervention. But unethical as hell. I looked up at Tom. This is real. Very. And the hospital board never knew. Correct. And if it leaked? Oh, it will not merely leak, Tom said. It will detonate. I closed the file. What do you need from me? I need motive and credibility. These do not come from corporations. They come from the personal. You have both. We sat in silence for a moment. Before I do anything, I said, I need to walk through my old house. I need to see what she left behind. Tom nodded. We can arrange that tonight. The condo sat in a neighborhood filled with tidy lawns and soft yellow porch lights, a place where Melissa's curated life had once been believable. I had memorized the smell of this street, and I hated that. Tom waited in the car while I walked to the front door. My key still worked. That felt like an insult. The lock clicked, and I stepped inside. Our couch, her throw blanket, the framed photo from our trip to Maine, the kitchen counter where she had once laughed over burnt pancakes and kissed me like I was oxygen. I walked down the hall, and the air got smaller and smaller, like the house itself wanted me gone. Our bedroom door was open. The bedsheets changed. New pillows. A diffuse scent of cologne that was not mine. I opened the wardrobe. Half empty now, like she had cleared space for someone else to exist. My chest tightened, but not with grief, with strategy. I sat at the desk where Melissa kept her laptop, pens, and notebooks filled with campaign scripts and quotes stolen from other people's speeches. In the drawer, I found a portable USB drive. Melissa labeled her drives with colors. Green for financials, pink for photos, gold for PR assets. This one was red. Red was for confidential. I slid it into my pocket. Back in the car, Tom asked no questions. Good. I needed silence more than sympathy. Next steps, he said. Information gathering. Today you start watching their routines. You start appearing in places without announcing intentions. You let rumors ferment. People already started whispering, I said. Good. In a week, those whispers will be headlines. We drove back into Harborview. The pier lights flickered in the distance. Salt sprayed the windshield. All of it familiar and changed at the same time. This does not end with a quiet resolution, does it? I said. No, Tom said. You are not looking for resolution. You are looking for ruin. He was right. Melissa Cole started this. Ethan Cole would finish it. The next morning, Harborview looked like a place preparing to swallow someone whole. Maybe it was me, but I doubted it. The gulls screamed over the waterfront in angry loops, clouds hung low and heavy, and the air had that show-you-teeth kind of cold that gets into bone marrow. Perfect weather for a quiet little war. I still had the red USB drive tucked in my jacket. I had not looked at it yet, not because I was afraid of what was on it, but because I knew I was going to use it, and I was savoring that knowledge the way someone might savor the smell of coffee before taking a sip. The anticipation felt better than anything else that had touched my brain lately. Tom had arranged a temporary apartment for me. Safe, minimal, clean, 2 rooms, a couch, a desk, a shower that worked, a bed that did not make my skin crawl. I did not need luxury. I needed a war room and a bed that did not remind me of Melissa. I made coffee, sat at the small kitchen table, and opened my notebook. I started writing everything I knew about their routines. Melissa. Arrives hospital 8:15 a.m. PR briefing 9 a.m. Gym on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Weekly donor lunch, Fridays, 1 hour p.m. Checks Instagram like it is oxygen. Brandon. Morning rounds 7 a.m. Surgeries mid-morning or early afternoon. Private clinic hours at least 3 days per week. Meetings with hospital board weekly. Likes to drive fast and park like laws do not apply to him. I stared at the notes, tapping my pen. They were predictable. A predictable enemy is an already wounded animal. I took out the red USB, popped it into my laptop. No password. Odd. Almost insulting. Folders. Confidential event drafts, PR materials, Hale collabs. The first folder I opened was Hale collabs. Inside were image files, press packet drafts, and a few very interesting PDFs about an influencer partnership that seemed just a hair away from ethically questionable. But that was not the gold. Not yet. I opened Confidential. There it was. A file named simply Video 48261. I clicked it and braced myself. It opened to grainy hotel hallway footage. Melissa and Brandon against a wall, kissing like teenagers. Not explicit, but explicit enough. Enough for questions. Enough for suspicion. Another clip showed them entering a hotel room together at 10:47 p.m. and leaving at 2:19 a.m. So much for working late. I closed it, exhaling slowly. There was another file. Hale Notes. Text document. Short but carved in stone. Phrases about board connections, new potential investors. A line reading, B does not want L to know. L, Lana. The wife Melissa did not know existed. Melissa thinking she was the only queen in the kingdom, unaware she was just a borrowed pawn on someone else's board. Good. Very good. At 8:35 a.m., I walked through the hospital lobby again. Same volunteers, same wheelchairs, same posters. Except now people did not just glance. They watched. A nurse pretended to check her phone just to look at me. Someone whispered, "That is him." I did not hide the slight smile on my face. I found Nicole in the corridor outside the staff lounge, sipping from an oversized pink mug that said, "I run on gossip and coffee." When she saw me, she raised an eyebrow. "Back already. I respect it." "Anything interesting today?" I asked. Nicole leaned in. Melissa got chewed out by someone on the phone. Full meltdown in her office at 7:50. Board call? Maybe. And guess who is presenting a new hospital initiative today at 10 in the auditorium? I did not need to guess. She said it anyway. Dr. Hale. Well then. Opportunity had just set itself on a silver tray and waved politely. "Thanks," I said, turning to leave. "I want front row seats when you drop the bomb," Nicole called after me. "Trust me," I said. "You will hear it even from the parking garage." The auditorium was down in the east wing, below ground level, where sunlight did not exist, and the walls had acoustic panels, so the hospital could control the sound of its own image. The projector screen displayed the title slide, Surgical Innovation and Outreach for Post-Trauma Reconstruction. Classic Hale. Even his titles smelled like cologne and self-importance. I took out a small USB transmitter. Legal, harmless, used by IT teams to connect presentation systems when the main controls fail. A little hack if you know how to use it. You could cue media remotely. Oh, and I knew this hospital's AV system better than most after years of running tests here during security audits. Melissa used to say I was too paranoid. Funny how that turned out. I waited until the lights dimmed. Brandon walked on stage in his California dentist smile glory, wearing a suit that probably cost more than 3 months of my life. The crowd clapped. I felt my fingertips buzz with adrenaline. When the third slide came up, I slipped the transmitter from my sleeve and clicked once. The projector flickered, glitched, and then instead of Hale's graphic about donor-funded recovery programs, the audience saw a still frame of hotel hallway camera footage. Melissa and Hale. Kiss frozen mid-breath. Gasps swept through the room. Brandon stalled, his posture shattered like glass in slow motion. There appears to be a technical," he stammered. People whispered like bees stirred from a hive. Faces turned. Someone in the front row murmured, "Is that—" I clicked again. Another still frame. A text exchange popped onto the screen. "Melissa, you were incredible last night. Hale, you bring out the best in me. He suspects nothing?" An administrator stood up. "Turn that off. Turn that off now," Brandon fumbled. Another staffer rushed to the AV panel. I calmly slipped the transmitter away and walked out before the lights came up. That was the opening move. Not the war, not even the siege. Just a tap on the first crack in the foundation. When I reached the parking garage, I could still hear voices, hurried steps, frantic questions about system glitches. But I was not done yet. I walked to the 4th level. My breath fogged slightly. The air tasted metallic. Exactly the flavor of a day going wrong for the right people. And then I saw her, Melissa, standing beside the elevator bank, phone crushed against her ear, talking fast. Her voice carried, sharp as an ice pick. "I do not care about technical failures. They cannot just run unauthorized media during Brandon's presentation. I need statements prepared in 10 minutes. I will handle the internal messaging. Just buy me time. I leaned against a concrete pillar, watching her. She turned and saw me. Her face collapsed into something between panic and hatred. You, she hissed, stomping toward me. You did this. You sick, petty... Melissa, I said, my tone calm. Good morning. Do not you dare act polite, she snapped. Do you have any idea what you have done? I have some idea, yes. You are ruining my career. Interesting, I said, because you tried to ruin my entire life. Careers are replaceable. Lives are harder. She stepped even closer. Her voice dropped. If you think you can intimidate me, you are out of your mind. I will destroy you legally, financially, socially. When I am finished, you will wish I left you at that motel. You do not get to threaten me anymore. You are nothing, Ethan. I nodded once, slowly. And yet somehow you are afraid. Fascinating. Footsteps echoed again, rapid, angry. Brandon appeared from the ramp, face flushed, eyes hot with adrenaline and humiliation. Is this what you wanted? He shouted at me. You think this is a game? I know it is, I said. I just did not start it. He pressed forward, finger jabbing my chest. If you pull another stunt like that, I will make sure... I slapped his hand away before he finished. You will make sure of nothing. You do not even have control of your own narrative anymore. He shoved me. I shoved back harder. His shoulder hit the concrete pillar. He looked genuinely shocked, like no one had touched him that way in years. Stop it, both of you, Melissa snapped, grabbing Brandon's arm. A security guard jogged toward us from across the level. Everything all right over here? I stepped back, hands raised slightly. Just a discussion. Brandon straightened his coat, breathing hard. His voice was ragged. This is not over. I would be disappointed if it was, I said. They walked off together, arguing in whispers that failed to hide the tremble in their voices. As I turned to leave, something caught my eye. Brandon's car. On the windshield, a parking permit sticker, and on the permit, pressed smooth and clear, his home address. My pulse kicked. You would be amazed what people leave out in the open. I left the hospital with the address memorized. Back at the apartment, I wrote everything down. Movement is power, but memory is ammunition. Memory can be altered. Written evidence cannot. I paced, hands twitching. The next step was not sabotage, not directly. It was reconnaissance. I needed to see the house, the environment, the patterns of a man who liked to pretend he could not be touched. I waited until night. I parked far down the street, walked up the sidewalk. Rain started, faint at first. Street lamps gleamed against the wet pavement. The house had a security gate, keypad entry. I watched from the shadows. At 10:14 p.m., Hale's car approached, gate opening automatically. No code entry. Motion-based trigger? Good to know. I waited until he parked and went inside. Then footsteps behind me did not sound like a homeowner returning. A woman's voice said, "If you are here to break in, you are doing a terrible job of it." I turned. She stood under an umbrella, coat belted, expression unimpressed. Her face resembled the photos in the folder. Lana Hale? So. The queen had noticed her king needed watching. Not breaking in, I said. Not yet, she muttered. Who are you? I asked. Someone who knows exactly what kind of man lives in that house. She studied my face. You are the husband, aren't you? The one he stole her for. He did not steal anything, I said. She walked. Lana nodded slowly. Fair enough. We stood in silence for a moment. Why are you here? She asked. I am looking for a way to burn his life down. She considered that and then surprised me. Then we might be useful to each other. A sudden gust of rain hissed over the pavement, blowing her hair sideways. She did not flinch. This city, I thought, is full of ghosts, and some of them are still breathing.